It's an original series of debates on WPRO. You can hear us, of course, on 630, News Talk 630, WPRO, and 99.7 FM. We have a lovely crowd this evening to kick us off. We have a new pope. He's not coming. He doesn't have a food truck. He wasn't, no, just kidding. I'm Tara Granahan, and welcome, and thank you for being here. A little round of applause. This is our first time out of the gate, so thank you, restaurateurs, for being here and being on the panel and going through this. Theo Spiritus is joining us tonight, and he is from Julian's Restaurant and Paragon and Spats, the restaurants in Providence. And then, of course, Brian Oakley is from Julian's Restaurant and Food Truck. So they're going to walk us through. This is called Food Fight, a series of debates that we're starting here at WPRO. We want to take different topics that everyone's buzzing about, social networking sites. There have actually been Twitter wars about this. Not that we're going to ask them to take off any gloves or anything, but we want to just delve deeper into what you're out there talking about with your family and your friends, maybe at work, over the water cooler. And so we're starting with Food Fight. So thank you again for being here. And let's just get to know, I mentioned to these gentlemen a little earlier, this is not the type of a business that I think that anyone just says, hey, today I'm going to wake up and open a restaurant. There's a lot of passion involved. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. And I think it's a tough business to sustain. So congratulations for doing that. And let's start with Theo Spiritus. He has Paragon, Spats, in Providence, both restaurants. Been to both of them. They're fantastic. So thank you for being here. Tell us when you got started and what made you, is this a family business, first of all, Theo?
No, it's not. I'm gonna tell you where when I started. I'm gonna age myself now,
That's
but
okay.
it's been around about 20 years. I started when I was 16. My first job was squeezing fresh oranges for 8 hours a day when I was back home in Greece. Then you get a promotion to a dishwasher. Then after that, as you work slowly, you move into the front of the house. I started at Paragon May 2nd, 1999. And I've been there for 13 years. And I also am the general manager at Spats. A lot of people know Spats. It was around from 1973 to 95, 96 at the location where Paragon is right now. Then a few years later, we opened it up back across the street from where Paragon is. Both locations are right on Thayer Street, next to Brown University. It's a highly populated area with students.
A lot of college students,
A lot
right?
of college students. We're right like 1 block away from Brown University. We are open 7 days a week. Kitchen is open till midnight every day. So it's always in and out, people hustle, bustle, and it is the restaurant business. It takes about, if not most of the time, about 100 hours a week just to get
Wow.
to be able to manage every different aspect of this business. So,
Well, we appreciate you being here, and also Brian Oakley from Julian's. Now, Julian's, I have to say, when I first started to hear about this new trend of food trucks, were you one of the first ones in Rhode Island?
I think that Shea Pascal might have been the
Okay.
first with Houghton's Dogs, but I think we were kind of pretty shortly after that.
All right, so how long have you been in this business, and what crazy thought came into your head to go into it?
I'm from Newport originally, and I pretty much, aside from doing dishes and being a janitor and pretty much having any job that a mom wouldn't want you to have, pretty much, I've worked in restaurants since I was 13. Before that, I worked with my dad since I was 4. Moved to Providence pretty haphazardly and was running a cafe right off of Thayer Street for a number of years. Ended up at Julian's. I started there February 4th, 2002. I think it's funny that we both know the exact day. And have been there ever since. And it's, it does take 100 hours a week. I mean, I put a lot of myself into that business. Julian's itself was started by Julian Forge. It's been there about 18 years. After being there for about 5 years, I became a partner there. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, we got this idea to, jokingly actually, like, oh, let's get like a double-decker bus and turn it into a food truck, go out to like festivals and events and maybe do catering, and the very next day, one of the partners said, I actually found one for sale online. It's in Canada. And all of a sudden, we own this vehicle. And we were like, oh my God, how do we get this here?
Now, because you do both, let's stay on this. Explain to us the difference, let's just say, first of all, on how you get a food truck up and running, because it's very different than having a restaurant. Do you go through the same stringent regulatory issues?
I'll tell you what, when we did that, the health department and the fire department were actually wonderful to work with. We had a lot of help from the inspector, or the fire marshal rather. And that bus is a little bit different than a food truck because it's built to building code. They didn't really know what to do with us because there is dining upstairs. So if the bus were to burst into flames, there's a localized alarm that transmits to the fire department so they can find us wherever we are. It has drop-down ladders. It's fireproofed, like the walls and the floors. It's got a full Ansel system. So it's built just like our kitchen, basically, at the restaurant.
The cost of running the food truck must be vastly different than running a restaurant.
Oh, yeah, a totally different thing. You know, what we've done to that vehicle is a little bit, it's got a little bit too much personality just to be an everyday food truck. When we premiered it, we did take out some kind of voyages around the city to feel it out, and we found that it really works best for when you have, like, you want to have a party. So, like, we did a party in Beavertail for 24 people right next to the lighthouse, you know, or out in the middle of the woods for a wedding party, or like the festivals. We've done a lot of work with the Newport Yachting Center this past summer, and this coming summer we do all their comedy and music events down there.
Now, Theo, let me just ask you, because you're dealing with two restaurants, solid restaurants, have been there for some time. Some of the bigger cities, Boston, Chicago, I think St. Louis, a lot of talk now about laws prohibiting how close a food truck can come to, say, your restaurant. Are you getting involved in anything like that?
We have talked to the College Hill Neighborhood Association and a few other people that are in the city as far as looking into what is in the plans, what's the talk about. The number one issue is basically the zoning or the city planning type of thing.
Well, are the food trucks taking away from your restaurant business?
I mean, they're not only from our business, from everybody else on the street. I mean, when you're in the area that we're at, and when you have, let's say, a group of 10,000 potential guests that are going to be walking through your door, and when you go, you have, let's say, back in 1999, I believe there was about 12 restaurants on Thayer Street. Now, if you add up the food trucks, there's a total, I believe, about 44 or 46
wow. And
food
there's
serving establishments.
not a lot of parking
So
to go down Thayer Street.
We've actually lost, by the summer of this year, we'll be losing, if a few other projects go through, we'll be losing about 320 parking spots for potential customers.
Why is that?
One of them is 200 of them are going to go because of the deal that Brown University had made with the mayor. And a lot of those Brown potentially ended up getting about 200 parking spots in the neighborhood of Thayer Street, not directly on Thayer Street, but in the side streets. And then there is a big project that is looking to go through for Gilbane. They're looking to build a huge dorms right on Thayer Street. And with the construction that is going to take about 3 years, they're looking to reroute certain streets. I believe it's Brook Street is going to be a one-way street, and you're going to lose one entire side of the parking and a few off streets so that they can allow for their equipment and trucks and things like that. So not only we already have a parking problem, but at the same time, we just compounded it again by two things that happened. I believe by July of this summer, we end up losing close to about 300 parking spots off the street.
Wow. So between that and then more food trucks coming into the area, are you feeling squeezed by this?
I mean, this is from everybody feels squeezed since 2008. It's no one in this state is doing the same business that they used to do before. But you know what? We do so many different things that we try to, even if you lose it from one end, you try to do something new or different that will make up for it from the other end. Mm-hmm. We offer so many different things at Paragon. Like, we do our regular lunch business, our regular dinner business. Then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we turn into more of like a lounge or a club atmosphere. Then at 2 o'clock in the morning, after we close, we're cleaning. At 10 a.m., we're serving brunch. So we offer a different variety of things that we probably do not feel it as much as other places do, but I'm sure quite a few people on the street are.
And you are watching and listening to Food Fight on 630 WPRO and 99.7 FM. We have two restaurateurs, Theo and Brian. Appreciate it. Brian, to get back to, it's so tough to park in some places in Providence, and now you've got both a food truck and a restaurant. Is it a level playing field? Do you sometimes feel that the food trucks are getting a little bit more of an upper hand?
I want to touch on something that he said a second ago, which is that, it's good that you're not feeling the squeeze, but I also think it's good that you, as a leader in that community of Thayer Street, are trying to keep an eye on things and stick up for the other businesses that are on the street and your neighbors. We try to be very aware of where we park because, don't get me wrong, it's a capitalist country. We want to provide a service and have happy customers, but, we don't want to disrespect anyone. Like, we wouldn't park in front of Spats. You know what I mean?
Well, is there some kind of variance, or is there some kind of rule or regulation even out there that says you can't get this close to X restaurant?
There is, to my knowledge, there isn't. You can park anywhere that it's legal as long as the parking is enforced.
Because that's one of the main. It seems like one of the main issues that's going around on the Twitter wars, saying, "Hey, give us some space, be respectful, knock it off." And it seems like it's going to the food truck owners. That criticism is going out to the trucks.
Let me just go in 1 second. I'll give you an example. I believe it was last summer that it happened. We have the outdoor dining during the summertime, so we have about 10 to 11 tables that we have outside. And we are on Angel Street, on the intersection of Angel and Thayer. So I'm sitting down at like around 10:30, 11 o'clock, talking to a few customers. And then all of a sudden, a food truck comes and parks right across the street from the Brown bookstore. He's serving from the sidewalk. Their generator is on the backside of the truck, which is facing our restaurant. So imagine if you're sitting down on Thayer Street or on Angel Street, and you're sitting down, you're having a nice meal outside, and then all of a sudden you have a truck that comes in and they turn their generator on, and all you could hear is the sound of the generator and the smoke of it.
So what do you
So
do
how
in
would
that
you-
situation? Who's
Well, I walked
responsible
very
to say-
nice. I mean, I walked very nicely to the guy, and I'm like, and I looked at him. He looks at me, and he's like, "I'm sorry." And then luckily, the guy was nice enough, and he basically moved his truck. But at the same time, well, what can I say? If I walked up to the guy and I tell him, "Hey, can you move your truck?" and he goes, "No, I'm not gonna move it." What are you gonna do?
What would you do?
Nothing. I can't do anything. Luckily, he was nice enough to move it.
So have police gotten involved in any of these situations? Like, could you just ask them to move along?
Well, in our district where we are, the police, I believe that district over there is a little bit understaffed. That is why Brown Police has now has more power and authority in the area, where now they're actually allowed to issue you tickets and pull you over for traffic citations just because the district where we at, which I believe District 9, is understaffed through the police. So the state, they negotiated kind of like an agreement, and the Brown Police now has more, how do you say, more power.
Clout? Power, yeah.
More power. So the regular police or Providence Police is just not gonna, to them, it's not a serious crime. It's a trivial thing. So they're not gonna come running every time they see a food truck parked somewhere. So the one thing that they have that they're not allowed to do, as far as I know, is that food trucks are not allowed to park in metered spaces. So anywhere where you see like a 2-hour parking zone or anything like that, or like you see the ones that you put the coins in, as far as I know, that food trucks are not allowed. But it still happens, and like I said, there's no one that's going to come and enforce it. So.
And Brian, you said earlier, listen, it's a capitalist society. Everybody's trying to make a buck. This is a very innovative way to do what you've done for so many years in a different way. Lower overhead, I would imagine. Explain to us some of the costs and what goes into the food truck side of it. I mean, are you making more bang for your buck?
I don't know if I really look at it that way. I mean, there's value in advertising. There are days you go out, you don't make any money. You know what I mean? So your overhead could be higher. in some cases, or you could make a killing one day and feel really great about it. I think what is cool about the truck revolution is that you have people who maybe didn't have a lot of insight in what they want to do, but they like to cook. They got excited about this idea, and I've seen a couple of different trucks mature into opening their own restaurants and becoming more professional and getting really behind food and getting really excited. So I think there's a lot of good in that. We were talking a little bit about, as we're a bar owner and you own 2 bars, people get out of the bar late at night, and then there's this area of trucks hanging out late night, which is maybe another concern for the city. But I think that there's kind of a good side to it. Some people in the city would like to see bars stay open later but stop serving to kind of help diffuse any fighting or public violence or crime or whatever, kind of give them some place to be. But having these trucks out late gives them something that takes the overhead costs off of the restaurant owner to go to this food truck area, you know what I mean, and get some food in them before they drive home, possibly cause an accident or get pulled over or what have you.
So what do you think, because you're doing both, what do you think is the main beef now when we see these Twitter wars, and not necessarily your restaurants involved in them, but when Theo was saying that, here you are, you have an outdoor venue, so to speak, and then here comes the back of the truck and the exhaust. I mean, are some people taking it to extremes, being ignorant?
I mean, you could say that both ways for restaurants and food trucks. I think that I try to be respectful. I can't speak for everybody else,
Are some others, are you saying, are some others just plopping it down and...
Oh, I'm sure they are. Last year I feel like I saw
Theo's
12
gonna name
new.
names. No.
I saw 12 new trucks on the street last year. You have 12 new businesses that don't maybe have any restaurant experience or any business experience. Not thinking about that kind of stuff.
Are they licensed the same way? Do they, what about the whole health inspection situation?
You still have to get inspected. You still have to have, we have 3-bay sink with a hot water heater, and you're suspect to food codes. I mean, I don't think inspectors make the rounds to those establishments like they do to physical restaurants.
You don't think they do?
I haven't seen one yet.
See, the issue with that is that up to recently, the health department was understaffed.
Yeah.
We just went up to 16 health inspectors a little while ago, and they're looking to hire 4 more. I kind of find it hard to believe that food trucks are getting inspected when I know that as far as the consistency of the rounds from food inspection is not out there for regular established restaurants. So me personally, I find it hard to believe that they are getting inspected.
I totally understand that nobody wants to take off the health inspectors.
It is what
you have
it is.
businesses to
I mean,
run, and
yeah.
and for years we've done stories that there have not been enough inspections. But isn't it a concern to you that you've not seen one at all for the food truck?
I mean, we had our primary inspection the first year, and the lady was very nice to deal with, and she was excited about all the extra steps we put in that maybe other people don't put in. But then again, they don't know where you're going to be most of the time. I mean, now you do have these apps for your smartphone, like Eat Street, where you can locate, or if you're following them on social media or what have you. And in terms of what you were saying with the Twitter wars, I don't have time to look at any of that stuff, really.
Too busy running a restaurant?
Yeah, so, I mean, if someone wants to go in there and say something derogatory to me in that setting, I'm not going to respond. I would rather it be like if he came up to the truck when I was there and be like, hey, this is really affecting my customers, can you help me out? I'd be like, yeah, I didn't think about that, sorry, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? We try to avoid that, but that would be my attitude.
It seems that in different parts of the country, and sometimes we are progressive and sometimes we're a little behind the times, right, depending on how you look at it. But on the West Coast, it definitely seems as if this is a much bigger issue, and a lot of the food trucks are saying, this is just totally unfair. They're cracking down on us. We want to make a living. And so I would ask you, Theo, if there's a young person, as was pointed out, who may not have the capital to open up a restaurant, but has a love of this and a knack for that, why not let them make a living?
Oh, no, absolutely. No one is, me personally, I'm not against the food trucks. The issue that we have, whether it's me or other business owners, whether on Thayer Street or anywhere in the city, is the regulation part and the planning, or the lack of regulations and the lack of city planning. Other states, like for example, like in Chicago or in Boston, for example, or even in New Orleans, if you actually look into it, They have set certain regulations. I'm sure they went through the same things that we're going through right now. Uh, One of the things that they've done is, like I know in New Orleans, you're only allowed like the food trucks because they're only allowed to park in certain areas for like half an hour, 40 minutes. One of the reasons that why they do that, one is also so that they don't allow that war to go between the food trucks. Where let's say, if they have their own truck and they go in early during the day and they park at this like high traffic area spot, now they're taking the business away not only from restaurants, but they're also taking it from other food trucks. So they implemented that law where you're only allowed to park in that same spot for like half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour. And then after that, you have to move your truck so you can allow other businesses or other food trucks benefit from that. One of the other ones that they do is they allow, they've designated certain areas where food trucks are able to park. Where they pay like a, how do you say, like a certain fee for like in a parking lot or something like that. And the other one is you're not allowed to park your food truck for any distance less than 100 feet away from the closest serving establishment. So that's kind of like it works in between for the restaurants that are casual restaurants and food trucks, where let's say if I'm open, like in that instance that I gave earlier, where if we're sitting down outside and then a food truck comes and parks not even 10 feet away, it makes a difference. So every certain cities have went through the things that we're going through, and they've changed their laws or updated their laws or worked with the vendors and with the food trucks and the regular restaurants. The issue that we have over here, it's such an early stage, and we just haven't caught up to the other states or the other larger cities that are out there. So we go back to that lack of city planning that we have, or zoning. That's where the real issue is.
And let me ask you, Brian, frog in the throat. It happens. Live TV, live web stream. Brian, do you see it progressing to the point where, now say, take an example of like Kennedy Plaza, excuse me. What's to stop, say this trend picks up and we'll have a few more regulations, obviously. What's to stop a bunch of food trucks lining up in open space? Do we need more restrictions, do you think? I mean,
I think at
now
Kennedy,
everything's coming out of the brick and mortar.
At Kennedy Plaza, I believe they have a program that you have to be approved to set up, and it's on a schedule. And I think they have about 5 trucks that are in that program. And I think that that's the way the city should go. I mean, you're totally right. It's young here, and last year it kind of boomed. Like a ton of trucks opened up last year. And the cities that seem to have a lot of success with it, because you have problems with parking in the Bay Area, and then like cities like Newport,
Right.
They shouldn't even have rickshaws, in my opinion. That's crazy to me. But like the cities that do well with the trucks are the cities that they provide an area, so you almost become like a food court. Like a nicer food court maybe, and you become a destination. So if you're in your office and you want to split and get lunch, maybe your friend wants Chinese, maybe you want falafel, maybe you want barbecue Korean, like whatever, and there are those options in that space, and there's a destination for traffic to want to go to.
How would you suggest capitalizing on both? I mean, you have 2 solid restaurants, you have a restaurant and a food truck. Would you go out and propose to other restaurateurs to add the food truck, or are we going to get oversaturated?
I mean, it's America. Everyone can do whatever they want. You should be pretty confident if you get into it, because it's not as cheap as you think it's going to be. I'll tell you that.
Explain that to us, because it really does seem like, hey, got a truck, I know how to cook.
Oh yeah,
it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. I mean, you got to be able to cook cleanly and properly and in volume. And regulations like parking for a half hour, 45 minutes, I hope that doesn't happen here to people, because you won't develop a crowd in that 40 minutes. By the time you get cooking and moving, you maybe sell 3-4 items by the time people realize you're there. I think it is going to keep growing, but I think this past year, I bet a lot of those trucks didn't stick it out. They saw how much work it actually is. Like, they don't have a full restaurant with a walk-in. They're going to the store every day to get produce, to get protein. Prepping that for the 3-hour lunch rush they might have. It's a hard market.
Is it worth it?
I mean, I think it's amazing, but we're not exactly a food truck. We're more of a catering vehicle. We do festivals and events. We do weddings. We don't do a lot of just strictly street vending.
And let me ask you, Theo, you said you grew up in the business. Theo Spiritus from Paragon and Spats, and also with us, Brian Oakley from Julian's, both a restaurant and a food truck. Theo, what's the best part of being in this business? Because we often hear there, in the state of Rhode Island at least, there are so many regulations and licensing situations and, spot checks and things like that. What's the best part of it?
You know what it is? It's being able to be out at the front and meeting different people, being able to get to know the guests that come in. I mean, I have so many friends that I got from working in the restaurant business, people that I got to know over the years and I got to really care about. And the number one thing is, that I really enjoy from the restaurant business is sometimes when, hopefully it's more often than that, but you do like a baby shower or a rehearsal dinner or anything like that, and 2-3 days later you get that email nowadays where thanking the staff for taking the time for like making sure everything went okay. People nowadays are so busy, they're so on the run, that when actually somebody takes their time to sit down in front of a computer and just write that letter for you, that to me, that means a lot more than anything else. When you're in the restaurant business, you are there in the hospitality business. So the minute that you start dreading that, or you start walking in and not feeling that you're up for it, that's when you're supposed to stop. You just walk away. And whether it's forever or you take a break and then recharge and then go back in. So being able to get up every day and walk into the restaurant and wanting to be there, and having 10, 15, 20 things that you have to make sure that go right during your shift, to me, those are the things that kind of like push me every day. But to go sit down in front of a desk and crunch numbers, that's not
Somebody else's job.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you feel, as we're talking about this, what we're calling food fight, in some instances that we've seen, and if you haven't been particularly involved in it, just maybe a here or there, do you see it as food trucks will eventually be coming in more and more and hijacking your customers?
I mean, that's normal. It's part of competition. If it's not a food truck, it's going to be another restaurant. If it's not a restaurant, it's going to be a fast food place. So that's life. You wake up every day and you take a look at all the different things that's going to come at you, and you just have to wake up and just have to deal with it and make sure that whatever we're doing right. And as long as we're doing our job the right way, people will always come back to us. It's when you start worrying about what other people are doing and not pay attention to what you are supposed to be doing, that's where you'll start having issues.
Brian, similar question. Do you feel like there's enough people out there? I mean, Rhode Island is known to be, one of our best situations are our great restaurants. Is there enough out there for everyone, food trucks and businesses?
I think that this is a saying I use at work all the time, is that when the tide rises, all boats rise. So I think tying into what he said, I always, for example, when Nick's got bought and reopened under Derek Wagner on Broadway, everyone was like, oh, are you nervous that Nick's is opening up? And of course I was a little nervous, but then what I realized from that experience and seeing the other restaurants open up on the street, it's like, oh, if I just keep doing what I do and try to do it the best that I can do it, I'm still going to have success. And I think that that goes for the food trucks too. I think you'll see a big influx. I think some will rise to the top and become the staples and be successful, And I think you'll see some people be like, I've already met a few people who have started them one year and they're like, that was just too much work. Business is hard in the state.
All right, well, great final thoughts from both of you. We appreciate you being here and our inaugural debate on WPRO. Theo Spiritus, Paragon and Spats in Providence, and also Brian Oakley from Julian's, the restaurant and the food trucks. We'll continue it, of course. You can find a lot more information on our website, 630 WPRO, and and then you can find us on 630 WPRO and 99.7 FM. I'm Tara Granahan on behalf of all of us here from the station. We appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And you can hear a lot more on the Gene Valicenti Show, the WPRO Morning News. We're going to use your wise words, and the food fight will continue, and we'll follow this as well, and we'll have more to come. So we appreciate it. Thank you, Johnson and Wales. Anyone who's listening, this is a fantastic hidden gem for most of us. The Culinary Museum is unbelievable. It's a day for you, the kids, and the family. It's awesome. So thank you, and Delman as well, for one of our sponsors. And we will see you again on the radio and on the website.